said, the one thing we want to try to avoid when we see somebody swing, I'm going to rewind this and back, you're not going to see this one, okay? If we just watch this swing here, okay, we'll watch it on like half speed, so it's going to look fairly quick. It's there, and then there's that move at the end where you sort of try and get, so you get to about your finish position, then it's that move where you sort of finish the swing off, there you're on your back foot still quite a lot, and then it kind of comes into the club doesn't look very sort of comfortable around there because you're still fighting your weight back on your right foot there. That foot spun out a little bit more than we want, okay? Now, top of the batsman there, again, lower half now looking nice and quiet. Hip position there now, we're trying to move these hips to the left side. So the first move now is going to be a bump, and then as we rotate, that's better. That's a good position there, we're behind the ball sufficiently enough, but not leaning back too much. And as we swing through, we're all coming through now with the swing of the club. So when you finish the swing, you're kind of there when you finish, and see that's a much more natural follow-through position. Whereas this one's sort of back there and like, oh, and then go on, and then I'll finish up there. So you kind of get there in the same position, but this one we kind of got there in the correct sort of order. Everything was sort of swinging round here together, hence the swing was a lot better. Whereas this one was sort of going like, well, back here, hips are trying to go there, this is going there. It's all just a bit, not a jumbled mess, but it's not as easy to get a consistent flight. There's too many compensations and variables, and then you go, okay, I'll finish the swing by just leaning forward, and you go, that's a great finish position, but in reality, you masked the movement you've made. And again, we said, if you hit a lot of shots with the weight too far back here, the ball wants to go left, okay? And then what you're then trying to do to compensate, you're trying to go to the right, which you sort of find what needs to be done on the golf course. You hit 4 or 5 absolute stunning drives, and then 4 or 5 drives you go, oh, beautiful, as you said anyway. Big snap up or a massive block, and yeah, give me another ball, I'm reloading. And that's what we've got to try and avoid. At least if everything's working a little bit more together, okay, if the swing is more in sync with arms and body going in the right direction, the same direction, your back shot will be better. If you're on your back foot trying to compensate, well, who knows what compensation you're going to get. Certain holes where there's more trouble left, you'll probably err on the side of being more open the club face, and then there's miles right, and then holes where there's trouble more to the right, you'll probably get more on the back foot and allow the club to release, and then you get a massive hook left. So, and either way, you'll find trouble on one side of the golf course. There's only a few holes on the mat, for example, where you get it at the first hole, for example, you can whack it pretty much anywhere. You probably get a beautiful straight out the middle of the fairway. There's no fear of going left or right. Then you got the second, don't want to go right the second, do we? So you probably find your drive goes a bit left maybe. Third hole, left, that's a good. I'll carve out into the 5th fairway. So you're always playing away from the trouble, but then making the next shot really hard, because the third hole you carve it right, you've got a massive long second shot. The second hole you go left to avoid the trees, right, you're in the trees anyway. So you're not really playing to a target, you're just playing to avoid trouble. By sort of going more or less or whatever you need to do. And you often find if you have 3 or 4 in a row going one way too much, okay, I'll work on more the other reaction to go against that, and again, I'm going to play left and right. So if we can get that sensation, which from there it's going to move to the left side. I would literally practice that with a wedge, just to get that feeling of your weight going from one side to t'other, one side to t'other, this way, back and forth. It was interesting when you did that, even with a wedge swinging the club 50 miles an hour at most, you still lost a bit of balance there. So having that control with the body, as we said, at all times you want to try and keep your top half a little bit more vertical on top of the ball, rather than getting so far behind here and underneath. If the top half is a bit more central and vertical there, you can sort of rock back and forth this way. If I sort of stood up here now and sort of just rock back and forth there and did that, sort of almost toe tap side to side, my spine's staying quite vertical. If I started doing this now, and then after a while my balance would be lost, because the head's going to be too like a top heavy movement. Okay, so top of the batsman's good. It's getting this motion in, like it's the sensation, something that's covering the ball. You're getting more on top of the ball, so you're swinging to a nice solid left side here, nice and straight in on top of the goal. But the ball's obviously ahead of you, because the driver, you're behind the ball anyway. That's the right angle we're looking for. We don't want to be here with too much hip slide, or no hip slide and just release and being back there. Okay, make sense? Good stuff, mate.